One morning, a guy named Andrew rushes out the door, trying to get to the office before his boss arrives. Across town, his boss, Margaret, better known as Maggie, is getting ready too. She is the chief editor at a book publishing company in Boston, and at work, everyone is terrified of her. She is strict, perfectionist, and so intimidating that the staff quietly nicknames her the Office Witch. Not long after she arrives, Andrew follows Maggie into the marketing department to meet a coworker named Bob, and without wasting a second, Maggie fires him on the spot, just because he forgot to call one author about a TV appearance next month. It is the kind of mistake that could be fixed with one quick reminder, but Maggie does not do reminders. She does punishment. Back in her office, Maggie immediately dumps even more work on Andrew. She orders him to come in on Sunday to finish Bob's unfinished tasks. Andrew tries to object because he already planned to fly home to Alaska to celebrate his grandmother's 90th birthday. Maggie does not care. If he does not show up on Sunday, she threatens to fire him too. And Andrew, knowing exactly how real that threat is, has no choice but to swallow his frustration. Later that day, Maggie gets called into her superior's office, and the news is a disaster. Her visa renewal has been denied. Maggie is originally from Canada, and her current visa is expiring. While her renewal is being processed, she is not allowed to travel anywhere. But a few days earlier, she was caught leaving the country anyway because she did not trust anyone else to handle an important project overseas, even though her team was already assigned to it. Now that violation puts her at risk of being deported, which would also mean losing her job. And the person most likely to replace her is Bob, the same guy she just fired. Right in the middle of this tense meeting, Andrew walks in, and Maggie sees her escape route. On impulse, she claims that she and Andrew are engaged, and that they will be getting married soon. Legally, if she marries an American citizen like Andrew, deportation would be off the table. Andrew is stunned, but he stays quiet and goes along with it, sensing she must be in serious trouble. Maggie's boss believes the story and tells her to move fast, to file the marriage paperwork with immigration before it is too late. And just like that, a fake engagement changes everything. This is the proposal.
The proposal.
Within minutes, the rumor spreads through the entire office. Nobody can believe Andrew is supposedly marrying their terrifying boss. Once they are alone again, Andrew finally pushes for an explanation. Maggie lays out the truth about her visa situation, but even while asking for his help, she still acts like she is in control. Without even getting his permission first, she announces that they will do a contract marriage until her visa is settled, then divorce the following month. And she does not just frame it as a request, she frames it as a warning. If she gets deported, Bob takes her job, and Bob hates both of them. That means Andrew would almost certainly be fired the moment Bob gets power. So, if Andrew wants to protect his career, he has to play along with Maggie's plan. After work, the two of them head straight to the immigration office. Maggie walks in with her usual confidence, pushing the officer to hurry up with the marriage paperwork because she claims she is busy. The officer stays professional but explains that registering a marriage between two people of different nationalities is far more complicated than a regular one. Andrew and Maggie will be interviewed separately and placed under special supervision. If the marriage turns out to be fake, Maggie will be deported and banned from returning to the United States permanently, while Andrew could face up to 5 years in prison and a massive fine. Maggie quickly tries to convince the officer that the relationship is real. She points out that they already have plans to stay at Andrew's parents' house that Sunday to celebrate his grandmother's 90th birthday. The officer accepts the explanation, but makes it clear that they will be watched closely. Once they leave the office, Maggie immediately starts reorganizing her work schedule for the month and lays out a strict set of rules for how this fake marriage will work. Andrew, feeling used and fully aware of how dangerous this plan is, finally pushes back. If Maggie wants him to continue, he has 3 conditions. He wants his book manuscript published, he wants to be transferred to the editorial department, and lastly, Maggie, the proud and intimidating boss, has to get down on her knees and ask him to marry her. That final demand completely shocks Maggie, but with her situation growing more desperate by the minute, she has no real choice. In the end, she agrees to everything and swallows her pride.
Andrew,
Yes, Margaret.
please, cherries on top, marry me?
That Sunday, Andrew and Maggie fly to Alaska. On the plane, Maggie explains that she plans to stay at a hotel during the visit. In her mind, Alaska is remote, which must mean Andrew's family is poor. She promises not to be a burden. She even rehearses their story for the immigration interview, suggesting they say they usually spend time at her apartment, since no one would believe someone with her position would date in a small place like Andrew's. Once again, Andrew has nothing to say. When they arrive in Alaska, they are picked up by Andrew's mother and grandmother. As they drive through town, Maggie starts to feel confused. Every store seems to carry Andrew's family name, and even the boat Andrew uses has the same name on it. At the harbor, Maggie asks to book a hotel, but Andrew's mother insists she stay at the family home to avoid raising suspicion, leaving Maggie with no choice but to agree. Then Maggie learns they need to take a boat to reach the house. She cannot understand why Andrew never mentioned that his family is supposedly so poor that they live deep in the wilderness. After a long ride, they finally arrive and Maggie is stunned. The family home is enormous. It turns out the island itself is privately owned by Andrew's family. And it does not stop there. The shops they passed earlier, the businesses around town, even the hospital and the airport all belong to Andrew's family. Realizing just how wealthy Andrew actually is, Maggie finds herself completely speechless. Inside the house, the family has prepared a big welcome party for Andrew, with around 50 guests celebrating his return. Maggie cannot understand why Andrew never mentioned that he came from a wealthy family. To him, it never seemed important, since his family's fortune has nothing to do with his job or his life at the office. Not long after, Andrew's ex-girlfriend shows up and greets them. Andrew introduces her to Maggie, and soon his mother calls him over and asks him to tell everyone how he proposed. Since they never planned this part of the story, Andrew and Maggie start improvising. Their made-up versions do not match at all, and it quickly turns into a subtle argument where they poke fun at each other's flaws. When the story ends, the happy crowd cheers and urges them to seal it with a kiss. Andrew starts by kissing Maggie's hand, but the crowd is not satisfied and keeps pushing for something more convincing. To avoid suspicion, they finally kiss for real. Afterward, the two of them feel awkward and retreat to their room. They finally get some rest, but there is only one bed, so Andrew ends up sleeping on the floor. The next morning, Maggie gets a call from one of her clients. While she is trying to focus, the family dog keeps bothering her. Then chaos breaks out when an eagle swoops down and nearly carries the dog away. Maggie manages to save it, but her phone is snatched by the eagle instead. In the middle of the panic, Andrew shows up. Maggie explains what just happened, and Andrew, playing the role of a caring fiancé, reassures her that he will buy her a new phone. He then asks Maggie to hug him, since his mother and grandmother are watching them closely through the window. Later that day, Andrew meets his father on the golf course. His father tells him that retirement is coming soon and that he expects Andrew to take over the family business. It is the same conversation they have had countless times, and Andrew finally snaps. His father has always pressured him to run the business, even trying to set him up with a business partner's daughter. But Andrew's dream has always been simple. He wants to be an editor and publish his own book. He makes it clear that he is an adult now and refuses to be forced into a life he does not want. If it were not for his grandmother's birthday, he would not have come back at all. Meanwhile, Maggie joins Andrew's mother, grandmother, and his ex-girlfriend for a women-only outing, a traditional pre-wedding celebration to mark Maggie's last days as a single woman. As the party grows louder and wilder, Maggie steps outside to get some air. Out there, Andrew's ex approaches her, congratulating her and saying she is lucky to have someone as good as Andrew. She reminisces about their happy past together. Maggie listens without reacting, yet she cannot understand why her chest feels tight. For the first time, she realizes she is feeling jealous. When they return home, they see Andrew venting his frustration by chopping wood with an axe while blasting music. His mother immediately knows what this means. Every time Andrew acts like this, it is because he has fought with his father. She confronts her husband, frustrated that nothing has changed over the years. She asks why he keeps selfishly pushing Andrew to take over the family business when Andrew has always refused. More than anything, she wishes her husband would give in just once and respect their only son's choices. From a distance, Maggie accidentally overhears the entire argument. After Maggie finishes her shower, she is startled when Andrew walks in without knocking. The moment is awkward for both of them, and the tension lingers into the night. As they get ready to sleep, Maggie starts wondering why Andrew chose to become an editor instead of taking over his family's business. From Andrew's perspective, he is just an ordinary person with dreams. Becoming an editor might not sound impressive to others, but it has been his dream since he was young, and that alone makes it meaningful to him. Caught up in the moment, Maggie opens up about her own life. She grew up alone without family to rely on. Years ago, she left Canada for America with nothing and no one. She survived by pushing herself hard and fighting her way up until she earned a high position at a major company. Somewhere along that difficult journey, her personality slowly hardened. Hearing her story changes how Andrew sees her. He realizes that behind the harsh and intimidating boss is a woman who is just as fragile as anyone else. Someone who needs affection but hides her weaknesses behind a tough exterior. The next morning, Maggie is jolted awake by a knock at the bedroom door. Panicking, she quickly wakes Andrew and tells him to get into bed. When Andrew's family enters the room, his grandmother suddenly announces that the wedding should be moved up to the very next day, so it can be celebrated alongside her birthday. Both Andrew and Maggie are stunned and desperately try to come up with excuses, but the pressure does not stop. In the end, they are forced to agree. Andrew's mother reassures them that the entire family will handle all the wedding preparations. Once everyone leaves, Andrew completely loses his composure. His family has become far too involved, and he is terrified that if they get married now and divorce a month later, his grandmother will not survive the shock. Seeing how distressed he is, Maggie instinctively hugs him and tries to calm him down. Only after he settles do they realize what just happened, and both of them become flustered. Later that day, still embarrassed, Maggie goes for a bike ride to clear her head. Instead of feeling better, her thoughts become even more tangled as she keeps replaying the moment she hugged Andrew. Along the way, she hears strange noises coming from the forest. When she investigates, she discovers Andrew's grandmother performing a ritual, hoping to bring good luck to her grandson's wedding. The grandmother pulls Maggie into the ritual and encourages her to dance along. Maggie tries to follow but ends up dancing awkwardly. Right in the middle of it, Andrew shows up and invites Maggie to go buy a new phone. Maggie feels embarrassed, realizing that he has been watching the whole time.
Come on, Margaret, feel the rhythm of the drums. E, oh, oh, e.
At the shop, after getting her new phone, Maggie mentions that she needs to reply to some client emails. Andrew takes her to an internet cafe. While Maggie is using a computer, she looks out the window and sees Andrew talking with his ex-girlfriend. A wave of jealousy hits her. Part of her feels like she is starting to like Andrew, but another part of her reminds her that he would never feel the same way. On their way back, they run into Andrew's mother and grandmother. Before heading home, the grandmother tells Andrew to wait behind on the boat and asks Maggie to come along with them instead. At the clothing store, while Maggie is trying on a dress, Andrew's grandmother reveals that the gown she is wearing is the very same dress she once wore on her own wedding day. And it does not stop there. The grandmother also gives Maggie a necklace that is hundreds of years old, a treasured heirloom passed down through generations of Andrew's family. She explains that she has long dreamed of giving it to Andrew's future wife, and now that moment has finally come. She trusts Maggie to take good care of it. Hearing this, Maggie is deeply moved. After spending so many years alone, this is the first time she truly feels the warmth of being part of a family again. On the way back home, everything suddenly spirals out of control. Maggie grabs the steering wheel of the boat and speeds off recklessly. She can no longer continue with the fake marriage. She cannot bring herself to keep lying to Andrew's family, who have been nothing but kind to her. Andrew panics and desperately tries to calm her down, but in the chaos, Maggie falls into the water. Thankfully, she survives. Andrew is visibly shaken, as if the thought of losing her terrifies him.
God, it's gonna be fine. Will you calm down? Hold on.
When they finally return home, Andrew's father asks both of them to come to the storage shed for a private talk. Waiting there is an immigration officer. The officer reveals that he and Andrew's father already know the relationship is staged, created only to secure Maggie's visa. The officer pressures Andrew to tell the truth, warning him of prison if he does not. Instead of feeling afraid, Andrew feels disgusted. He confronts his father, questioning why he always interferes in his personal life, even going as far as involving immigration authorities. Andrew knows his father did this to force him to quit his job as an editor and take over the family business. Standing his ground, Andrew makes it clear that he truly loves Maggie, and that no matter what happens, he will marry her and make her the happiest woman in the world. Faced with his son's determination, Andrew's father is left speechless. That night, with the wedding just hours away, Andrew and Maggie sleep in separate rooms. Andrew lies awake, replaying his own words in his head. He meant every one of them, but he has no idea whether Maggie feels the same way. In her room, Maggie cannot sleep either. She is touched by Andrew's declaration, yet she cannot believe that someone like him could truly love her. On top of that, guilt weighs heavily on her. She knows that ever since she arrived, she has only caused trouble for Andrew and his family. The next day, the long-awaited wedding finally arrives. The entire family is filled with joy, and even the immigration officer is present. At first, everything goes smoothly, but just before the vows are completed, Maggie suddenly stops. In front of Andrew's entire family, she confesses that their marriage is a lie. Since joining this family, she has experienced kindness and warmth she never felt before. To protect Andrew, she takes full responsibility and admits to the immigration officer that the plan was hers alone. Andrew, she says, was only a victim, forced to go along with it under the threat of losing his job.
Confession, actually. I forced Andrew here to marry me.
After revealing the truth, Maggie walks away. Andrew tries to calm the chaos while his thoughts remain fixed on her. When he rushes to find her, all he discovers in the room is her wedding dress, his book manuscript, and a farewell letter. In the letter, Maggie apologizes. She admits that Andrew's manuscript is actually very good, but she refused to publish it because she was afraid of losing such an exceptional assistant. Before returning to Canada, she promises that she will finally publish his book. When Andrew's ex-girlfriend arrives and sees him standing frozen, she reminds him that if he truly loves someone, he should chase after that love. That is all Andrew needs to hear. He takes off running. Meanwhile, on a boat, the immigration officer escorts Maggie away and even grants her until the next day to pack her belongings and leave the United States. Outside the house, Andrew's father once again blocks his path and demands that he stop acting recklessly. As the familiar argument between father and son flares up, the tension becomes too much. Andrew's grandmother suddenly collapses from a heart attack. Moments later, an air ambulance arrives. Inside the aircraft, the grandmother, now extremely weak, urges her son and grandson to make peace. Before she believes her time is up, she wants them to grow up, respect each other's choices, and stop fighting. For her sake, Andrew and his father finally promise to end their conflict. Seeing her family reunited, the grandmother feels relieved. She believes she can finally rest and slowly closes her eyes. But that is not the end. The grandmother suddenly remembers that they still need to rush to the airport to catch Maggie. Because she knows the pilot, she threatens him into turning the plane around, warning that she will report him to his mother if he refuses. When they reach the airport, Andrew desperately tries to contact a friend who works in air traffic control to stop the plane heading to Boston, but it is already too late. The next day, Maggie is seen packing up her office. As she asks a coworker for help, Andrew suddenly bursts in, out of breath from running. Overwhelmed with emotion, he finally lets everything out. He cannot accept her leaving after turning his life upside down. 3 years of working as her assistant nearly broke him mentally. Just the day before, she had destroyed the wedding they worked so hard to prepare. But worse than all of that, she shattered his heart. Now she cannot walk away. Andrew cannot bear to lose the woman he loves. With nothing left to hide, Andrew confesses his feelings and finds the courage to propose to the woman who once terrified him as his boss. When Maggie realizes that the man she loves feels the same way, she is overwhelmed with happiness and accepts his proposal. A few days later, Andrew and Maggie return to the immigration office to reapply for their marriage. Although the officer is still annoyed about being deceived before, he decides to give them a second chance, on one condition. From this point forward, there can be no more lies. So the moral of the story is never bully your assistant, because one visa problem, one fake marriage, and one rich family island later, you might end up proposing to the same person you almost fired on a Sunday.